very interesting journey from an initial question that the team, our academic team, thinks of for doing a systematic review, and then the ultimate question that we pursue because we've done some pilot tests and some critical thinking about the way the issues are framed.
I came with this big question where I'm like, I'm going to solve everything. And like, oh, I thought that this tool could be used and I could just give them 5 parameters and then you're going to output some information for me and it's just going to be solved and it's only going to take us 6 months or something. We're still working on it, by the way, and it's been like a year and a half. And so one, I had to learn how to think systematically. And like think more in that structure of how do we actually make a good question. It's changed then how I focus the question, as in I can't just say I want to study macrophages and cancer because that's every paper that's ever existed in the entire world, right? I have to now think, what about macrophages and nanoparticles and cancer within the last 20 years, right? Or within some other types of constraints, or you have to talk about these types of criteria to really fit. So defining that criteria was something that I really had to change. And I had to push back against the kind of scientist engineer in me that's always like, well, we could add this, can't we? And like, no, you got to answer the question, right? But also thinking about how you approach questions, as in what can the models do? So I also think that we had this idea, and I think doctors Gainey and Young will remember, where we kind of went from saying this is a systematic review to like, no, we're really mapping what's happening here. And so I think that things have evolved as we kind of realized like the complexity of the question we were actually answering that was based on getting to some of that first bits of data and thinking about what the real utility was and how to actually maximize the utility of the platform.
Ceres 2030, so CERES, so Ceres is the goddess of agriculture, was a donor-driven project where we had a group from Germany, the United States, France, Netherlands, mostly G7 countries, come together and ask, a very simple but also very broad question: what works to end hunger? I had sort of a group of donors come to me to say, can you tell us what works? And I said, no, actually I can't. But what I can do is work with you to create a really interesting, inclusive process where we're thinking really hard about not only what are the effective interventions that can help end hunger, increase biodiversity, and consider all of the elements for environmental sustainability, but then also, what does it take to really bring the research community together around this question and allow us to answer it in a way that is transparent and, as I've said, inclusive.
Sometimes I think I really want to do a systematic review, but then I need to switch gears and do a scoping. And sometimes I start as a scoping and realize I need to be more specific. And so I think it's really the iterative process that helps me decide. And sometimes just the pure number of papers that come available if I'm thinking about doing a scoping. So I think that is part of the conversation that we have, as well as, sometimes it really is a research question. So if I'm, for instance, looking to try to figure out what is the best strategy to move forward with one of my research plans, I might say, let's do a scoping, because then I'm going to have a broader sense of what's available in the literature. And then I'm going to choose, say, an intervention or a strategy that's going to be the most proven or best proven to try to address this research question. In other instances, for instance, I was doing a systematic review that wanted to know the specific screening rates in the US over a certain time period. And that was a very specific question. And so I really wanted to dig into, the systematic review so that we could get at that really specific question. And so it really kind of depends on the research question as well as this iterative process of how we get to that specific review.